Following Transformers: The Rise of Beasts, I was kind of wondering where the franchise would go in terms of theatrical film, which today I think is the biggest draw for new Transformers fans who later seep into the television shows and toy lines. Now, I know not all fans are introduced this way, but largely it would seem that way. The thing about Transformers: The Rise of Beasts is that the box office and larger cultural impact was, to put it nicely, muted compared to the ultra-popular Michael Bay films of the decade prior, and as that film's follow-up toiled in development, which it still is as of January 2026, mind you, they announced the next picture would be the second theatrical animated film following the now decades-removed Transformers the movie from 1986 that tied into the original Transformers G1 series. The film actually dates back to 2015 when, following the release of Transformers: Age of Extinction, Akiva Goldsman started fielding ideas for new Transformers films, one of which was an animated prequel to the Transformers films that takes place on Cybertron and tracks the origins of Optimus Prime. The film being announced in 2017, years before this film's actual release in late 2024. Travis Knight, the director of the 2018 Bumblebee film, showed some interest in taking on that project, but ultimately it fell through. Josh Cooley, a Pixar veteran, ultimately taking on directorial duties in 2020, the film title at the time being Transformers: A New Generation, but eventually the name would shift into Transformers 1. The film's general plot was showing Optimus Prime and Megatron millions of years before the conflicts of the Bay films being friends turned enemies. The film was inspired by the novel Dune and the original 1986 Transformers film, early in production, with the team hoping to lean on comedy and, ironically, humanity to interject more realistic drama into the world of Transformers than we saw in the previous Bay films. Initially, Optimus and Megatron were going to be of separate worlds, though to keep the runtime tight, they basically start the film off as friends, both working in the mines of Cybertron before later becoming enemies. We'll come back to that in a second. The team behind this film wanted a major cast of characters and some youth, so instead of hitting up Peter Cullen and other major Transformers cast members of the past, they started fresh, pulling in Chris Hemsworth as Optimus Prime, Scarlett Johansson as Elita 1, Keegan-Michael Key, and John Hamm as some of the other big players as well. Hemsworth hoped to make a unique Optimus Prime voice, bringing some of him, but also interjecting some of Peter Cullen's iconic take to make something unique but somewhat familiar as well. Industrial Lights and Magic was pulled in for the film, having had worked on effects for the other Transformers films and pulling in some of that style while adding a G1 and Art Deco feel to the art style. During production on the film, it was intended to be a spin-off of the Bayverse that would act as part of a cinematic universe, but soon as production went on and the cinematic universe concept proved time and time again not to really work beyond the Marvel Cinematic Universe and kind of sort of DC, I guess, it was decided that the film would only tangentially be related, but could more or less do what it wanted. Hence, Sentinel Prime is a villain here and was a villain in Transformers: Dark of the Moon. It also reflects Transformers: The Rise of Beasts and Bumblebee, which more or less did their own thing when it came to continuity and didn't strictly adhere to the Michael Bay films, which, mind you, didn't entirely stick to its own continuity very well at all times. The film follows friends Orion Pax and D16, Energon miners on Cybertron who, after entering a race between the upper-class Transformers, get screwed over and locked deep in the drudges of Cybertron, meeting Bumblebee and later bringing in a fellow miner, Elita 1, as they start uncovering the evil doings of Sentinel Prime, the leader of Cybertron, who has sold out the Autobots to the evil outworld nemesises, the Quintessons, with Sentinel also having had betrayed the other Primes decades earlier in a grab for power. Soon bringing in the High Guard, a group of future Decepticons, and later the other miners on the planet to overthrow the evil Sentinel Prime and his gang of upper-class lackeys, causing a class war. Orion, D16, Elita 1, and B127 getting cogs, changing them from peasant miners into transformers in their own right. D16 eventually kills Sentinel and adopts the name Megatron, and Orion gets the matrix of leadership, magically getting the other miners cogs at the same time, somehow, and becoming Optimus Prime. The duo then fight, and Optimus wins the fight, causing Megatron, his old friend, to leave with the High Guard to form the Decepticons, and Optimus and the miners becoming the future Autobots. Elita 1 becoming his right-hand woman, and B-27 becoming Bumblebee, Transformers' most marketable character of all time, hence why he's in this movie. Orion Pax is a bot who dreams of bigger things, crashing Sentinel's race.
I don't believe it! The miners take down Darkwing! Oh, miner!
And trying to find a better destiny for the miners, which ultimately leads him to learn of Sentinel's wrongdoings. He and D, or Megatron, start disagreeing, with the duo growing farther and farther apart, climaxing in D killing Sentinel during the miner uprising, which leads to Orion becoming Optimus and forming the Autobots, and D becomes Megatron and retrofits Starscream's High Guard into the Decepticons. Optimus embraces his destiny or whatever, and learns the meaning of leadership and being humble or whatever. He's cool, but he isn't all that deep. In terms of design, Optimus looks pretty good here, especially in Super Prime form, but honestly, I despise seeing Optimus Prime's mouth. I don't know why, it always looked creepy to me. I think the smartest thing they did in G1 is not give this guy a mouth. D16, later Megatron, also embraces his destiny, but unlike Optimus, who becomes a compassionate leader, he becomes an evil, hell-bent villain on a revenge quest. I like his intensity, but I almost feel Megatron going from shy friend to evil killer was a bit quick. His design is good, a bit blocky, he kinda looks like a Bionicle or some shit. Elita 1 was a good choice for the film. It would have been tempting to pick RC again, the only female Transformer as far as the franchise is often concerned. Elita 1 is a leader in the mining fields, but after silly antics loses her job and joins Optimus as one of his top lieutenants in the Autobots. I like her enough, she's kind of a bitch, but that's by design. Elita 1's design is good, no complaints. She doesn't look terrible, but there's something a bit off about her, like Optimus Prime. B127 or Bumblebee is the comic relief for the film and keeps wanting to be known as Badassatron. He is more or less here for jokes and to put the most marketable Transformers center stage in this film. He is not that important. I like his design, sort of a modernization of the G1 look for Bumblebee, which I like that they've been doing more than just kind of trying to pull in that Camaro look from the Michael Bay films. Alright, the other miners and later Autobots include Jazz, good design, straight ripped from G1. RC, good design, straight ripped from G1. Blue Streak, you barely see him. Brawn, good design, straight ripped from G1. Chromia, teal RC, looks fine. Firestar, orange RC, looks fine, don't love the color. Hound, pulled from G1, just a classic design, love this. Huffer looks fine, a bit generic, but it's Huffer. Ironhide looks G1-esque, but is a little too youthful. Ironhide smokes 2 packs a day, he doesn't look youthful. Moonracer is green Elita 1. Prowl looks like Prowl, I love Prowl's design, cool. Ratchet is barely noticeable but looks fine. Red Alert looks like Red Alert, it's cool enough. Sideswipe looks a bit generic in G1 and looks a bit generic here. Smokescreen is here, you barely see him. Sunstreak kind of looks whack. Wheeljack, my personal goat, looks weird. I don't know why he's so square. Windcharger is here, but he's hard to see, so whatever. As for the High Guard, Starscream is kind of the freak wannabe leader, coward man, as always. He looks accurate to the original G1, and I like how he translated here. Soundwave is one of the coolest Transformers in G1 and translates here well. He's barely a character in the film, but he's here. Shockwave is the same as Soundwave, cool in the show, and the design is more or less pulled straight here, but he does pretty much nothing in this film. Skywarp is purple Starscream with a face mask. Thundercracker is blue Starscream. Dirge is Starscream with a hood. Ramjet, white and red Starscream with a cone. Thrust, red with a cone. Slipscreen, purple Starscream, but a girl. Red Wing is red Starscream, but a little Twinkie. As for the Primes, Alpha Trion looks sick and is played by Lawrence Fishburne. He is a wise exposition dump a la Obi-Wan from A New Hope. Zeta Prime is a battle axe wielding dude. Looks cool, but he's dead. Megatronus Prime is the inspiration for Megatron and is the Decepticon-faced Prime. Pretty badass looking. Alchemist Prime is a corpse. Amelgus Prime is a mess. Liege Maximo looks cool, but you barely see him. Micronus Prime looks dumb, and I almost said micro penis. Nexus Prime looks pretty dead to me. Onyx Prime.
Huh? Whoa, an onyx!
Prima Prime is a corpse. Quintus Prime is a corpse. Solus Prime is a corpse. Vector Prime looks pretty cool. Pretty gaudy. Not bad. He's also a corpse. Sentinel Prime is the evil man who betrayed the Primes and became the leader of Cybertron, leading with an iron fist and is kind of a villain in the guise of being a friend. He's pretty cool. A little over-designed if you ask me, and we've seen this twist with Sentinel Prime before, but whatever. The Primes we see all look unique to the film and pretty cool, but they're mostly dead, so it's kind of hard to say. We don't get a great view at most of them. Arachnid is Sentinel's lieutenant. I like her design. Honestly, she looks pretty cool, and her movement is sublime in the film. Even if her character is a bit generic by nature of being a henchman, I just think they did some really cool stuff with this character. I like her. The Quintessons aren't as creepy as G1, look more robotic in nature as compared to like Faces of Death that the G1 versions were. Those things creep me out as a kid. It is implied that in a potential sequel they would be villains, having used Sentinel for Cybertron's resources in exchange for not invading. Primus is the god of Cybertron because he is Cybertron. He is bulky and Optimus Prime-esque. We know he transformed into Cybertron. That's pretty much it. We don't get a great look at him. These tracker things look cool. Darkwing is cool. Like a blue Constructicon vibe. I like the designs in this film mostly. They got creative with some of the leads, but by and large stole G1's looks, which works well enough and is pretty common for modern Transformers media. I think they kind of like to keep it to G1 instead of the later designs we saw in all of the subsequent Transformers shows. Beyond the Transformers themselves, this film has really solid and detailed animations. Transformers, wildlife like deer, a detailed and intricate, while also complex Cybertron where everything seems to actually do something. The Miners' Village looks especially cool and lived in. I like the references not only to the Transformers continuity from other sources, but also things like the famous toy line. For example, D16 puts on a decal sticker.
But that's not funny. Let me see.
Oh, yeah, don't grab, you're gonna crease it.
Which was reminiscent of the decals you'd apply to your G1 Transformers toys with the heat-sensitive logo stickers. This shows some reverence for the toy line, and it feels like kids who grew up on G1 created this with reverence for the old show and toy line and everything about Transformers. Something I can't really always say about the Bayverse films, which feel more like reimaginings of the franchise from the perspective of super action movie director Michael Bay, which, you know, there's an appeal to those as well, but it's something a little different. I like when Orion and D join the Lotron 5000 race and everyone keeps yelling about miners.
Are those miners?
4-bot pileup in the magnetic tunnel, and the two miners are now in first position. One miner is now carrying the other.
They want these miners so bad you would think it was Jeffrey Epstein sponsoring the race. Am I allowed to say that on YouTube? The film is a classic friends turned enemies boiled down for children to easily digest it. It is a tragedy as old as storytelling itself, but made into a flashy cartoon. It isn't really all that deep, but with that said, the plot works and it doesn't overcomplicate things, even with the immense amount of lore the film dispenses at you constantly. The music is by Brian Tyler, and in all honesty, it is kind of just your generic, if watered down Transformers action film music. Vaguely G1, vaguely Michael Bay, depending on the moment, but nails neither, really. It works, but it's not super catchy the way I think both the G1 and Bayverse films are, both having songs that are absolutely earworms. The animation by Industrial Lights and Magic is really, really cool. George Lucas's effects company continues to be on the cutting edge of special effects, and while they aren't known for animation nearly as much, they really kill it here. The character designs we already discussed, the fight scenes are unique and dramatic, the characters have a cool flow and move in unique ways. Even the final battle is epic in scope and yet so focused on the interpersonal drama, climaxing in Orion transforming into Optimus Prime, which was a really cool looking moment. The Primes look really cool but are ultimately just the exposition, and while there are beautiful moments like the caravan exploring Cybertron's forbidden surface, the middle is very exposition heavy but also sort of too quick. Orion going from peasant to prime feels a bit rushed. The celebrity voices are largely pretty good, but Scarlett Johansson as Elita 1 and Chris Hemsworth as Optimus Prime just shine through too much and it gets distracting. Like, you could have just got a standard voice actor for it. In the back of my mind, I can't help but think, oh, they hired some of the Marvel guys for this one to market the movie. And the fact that they always show up in packs to these films just feels annoying. Like, yep, grabbing the marketability, let's get a couple of those Marvel guys out here. They aren't bad, but Marvel has these guys typecasted super hard, and honestly, I can't stop seeing Thor and Black Widow running around. Some cringe jokes were made, but this movie's made for like 9-year-olds, so whatever. Certainly more family friendly than the Bay films, which both want to be very horny and very marketable to children.
This is illegal. She's a minor.
We're protected by the Romeo and Juliet laws. Statute 2705-3.
What? Texas statute?
Are those minors?
This film is dead set on its demographic, and it doesn't stretch itself too thin or do anything too creepy like Michael Bay's films occasionally would. I can also appreciate how the main cast picked the core Transformers, with Elita 1 as kind of the obscure ad, and while Bumblebee may have needed more to do, the fairly small tight cast added enough character moments to everyone to make them have character, other than the basic archetypes of the more character-light Bay films where many of the Transformers felt pretty one-note. I mean, some of these characters go so far to have 2, even 3 notes, I think. This film ends on a cheesy ass speech, as you may legally be mandated to do, making a Transformers film. And I think I'm getting tired of these cheesy speeches, because if you watch my videos, I bitch about it in most of the films that have cheesy speeches at the end.
There's no going back, because some transformations are permanent.
Some transformations can't be undone. Maybe the single cheesiest shit I have ever heard in my entire life. Overall, this film isn't bad. One part cheesy, one part sweet, and not the most shallow piece of Transformers media that's ever come out. At least it isn't actively bad. Transformers 1 costed around $150 million, though initial estimates were as low as $75 million. Problem is, the film only grossed $129 million, add in the marketing, and it's unlikely this film was a smash hit by any means. In fact, that figure is pretty pathetic when compared to the Michael Bay films which, by and large, till the end, lit up the box office. Rotten Tomatoes was kind to this film, at least, with it getting an 89%, and it wasn't hated on Metacritic either, with a 65 out of 100, which, you know, isn't actually horrible for a film of this vibe. I like this film enough. It's not spectacular, but it works.